Everyone in that room believed the promotion was already mine. I believed it too. What none of them knew was that in less than an hour, a single announcement would quietly break 3 years of work, redraw every relationship in that company, and start a chain of events Arthur Alden would later wish he could undo. The conference room was full when Arthur stood up. He tapped his glass with a spoon, smiling like this was a celebration meant for everyone. The table was crowded with managers, team leads, and executives who had worked late nights together for years. I sat halfway down the table, hands folded, already knowing this meeting mattered. Arthur had told me 3 months ago the promotion was settled. Just paperwork left, he said. Alden Ventures has had an incredible year, Arthur began, and that's because of strong leadership and fresh vision. Fresh vision? My stomach tightened, but I kept my face calm. Arthur lifted his glass higher. I'm thrilled to announce our new regional director. Please join me in congratulating my niece, Lily Monroe. For a brief moment, the room froze. Then applause erupted. People stood, chairs scraped back. Smiles spread fast. Lily rose from her seat at the far end of the table, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her suit new and expensive. She looked surprised in the practiced way people do when good news confirms what they were already expecting. I stayed seated. My hands didn't move. My body felt heavy, disconnected. 8 weeks. Lily had been here 8 weeks. I had been here 3 years. I had built the operations department from 12 people to 47. I had missed birthdays, holidays, weekends. I had been told, clearly more than once, that this role was mine. Arthur's eyes met mine briefly. Something flickered there. Guilt, maybe, or hesitation. Then he looked away and kept smiling. Amy has been an incredible mentor to Lily, he said. I know she'll continue to support her as we move into this exciting new phase. Support. The word burned. I forced my hands together and clapped slowly. Each sound felt empty. Around me, people kept applauding, some stealing quick looks at me before looking away. A few faces showed sympathy. Most showed relief that it wasn't happening to them. Lily cleared her throat. Thank you so much, Uncle Arthur, she said. I'm really excited to learn from Amy's experience as we transition. Learn from me. Transition. I smiled because everyone was watching. Because moments like this teach you how much of your dignity you're expected to swallow quietly. I smiled until my jaw ached. The meeting wrapped up quickly after that. People gathered around Lily, offering congratulations and advice. I packed my notebook and stood, my legs slightly unsteady. Margaret from accounting brushed my arm as she passed. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I nodded, unable to answer. Inside my office, I closed the door and sat down. My nameplate still read Senior Operations Manager. On the wall hung 3 Employee of the Year certificates. One for each year I had given everything to this company. My phone buzzed. Joseph, how did the announcement go? I stared at the message for a long moment before typing back. We'll talk tonight. I didn't cry, not yet. I just sat there, listening to laughter in the hallway, already knowing that whatever came next would change everything. By the time Arthur knocked on my office door that evening, the applause from the morning still echoed in my head. I already knew this conversation would be framed as calm, reasonable, and final. I also knew it would decide how I was expected to swallow what had happened. Amy, do you have a minute? He asked. Of course, I said, standing up. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him, the smile gone now, replaced with something careful. He sat across from my desk. Adjusting his jacket like this was a routine meeting, not the moment he explained why 3 years of promises no longer mattered. I know today was difficult, he began. I stayed quiet. You're incredibly valuable to this company, he continued. What happened this morning doesn't change that. I nodded once, then helped me understand it. Arthur sighed and leaned back. Lily brings something different, new energy, new ideas. The market is changing, Amy. She's been here 8 weeks. Yes, but... I've been here 3 years, I said evenly. You told me this role was mine, you said it was earned. He folded his hands together. Business decisions evolve. That's not an answer. Arthur's jaw tightened. You're taking this personally. I looked at him, It is personal, it's my career. He stood up and walked toward the window, his back to me. Lily needed this opportunity. She's young, she has momentum, you're already secure here. Secure. The word landed worse than support had earlier. So because I survived without your help, I said slowly, I don't deserve advancement. That's not what I said. It is what you meant. He turned back around. Your family, Amy family, makes sacrifices. There it was. I stared at him, the man who had toasted my replacement with champagne. Then, why wasn't I told the truth? He didn't answer right away. His silence was loud. I'm offering you a senior advisory role, he said finally. You'll guide Lily, make sure the transition is smooth. You want me to train her. I want you to help the company succeed. I stood up. You want me to do my job without the title. Arthur's voice hardened. Be reasonable. I have been reasonable for 3 years. He exhaled slowly. Where else would you go, Amy? That question changed something in me. I picked up my jacket. I should get home. Arthur looked relieved. Give Joseph my love, and thank you for understanding. Understanding. I walked out without replying. The drive home felt longer than usual. Traffic crawled, red lights stretching the minutes. His words replayed again and again. Secure, family, where else would you go? When I pulled into the driveway, the house lights were on. Joseph was already home. I sat in the car for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, realizing something had cracked open. This wasn't disappointment anymore. This was clarity. Joseph noticed something was wrong the moment I walked in. Dinner was already on the table. He had cooked, which he usually only did when he wanted to cheer me up. The smell should have comforted me. Instead, it made everything feel heavier. You look exhausted, he said. What happened? I sat down slowly. They gave it to Lily. He froze. What? The promotion, I said. Arthur announced it this morning, in front of everyone. Joseph stared at me like he was waiting for the rest of the sentence. That's not possible. Dad told you. I know what he told me. I explained everything. The toast, the applause, the way Arthur talked about support and transition like I was part of the furniture. Joseph listened without interrupting, his expression tightening with every word. That's unbelievable, he said finally. I'm calling him. No, I said quickly. He stood up anyway. He crossed a line. This isn't your fight, I said. It's mine. He humiliated you. Yes, and if you step in, it becomes something else. Joseph ran a hand through his hair. He didn't even talk to me. He didn't warn me. He didn't warn me either. We sat in silence for a moment. What did he say when you spoke to him? Joseph asked. I hesitated. He said Lily needed it more. He said I was secure. Joseph let out a short laugh. Secure, like that makes it okay. He also asked where else I would go. Joseph looked at me sharply. He said that. I nodded. That's not business, Joseph said. That's arrogance. I pushed my food around my plate. He thinks I don't have options. Joseph sat back down. Do you? The question caught me off guard. I don't know, I said honestly. I never looked. You should. I looked at him. Are you saying I should quit? I'm saying you shouldn't stay somewhere you're treated like this. He's your father. Joseph's jaw tightened. That doesn't give him the right to do this to you. But it complicates things, I said, for you. I'll deal with that, he said. What I won't deal with is you being crushed slowly. I looked at him then, really looked. He was angry, yes, but also scared, caught between loyalty and fairness. They expect me to train her, I said quietly. Joseph's hands clenched. That's cruel. They call it mentorship. It's exploitation. I didn't argue. Later that night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling while Joseph slept beside me. For the first time in years, work wasn't just a problem I needed to solve. It was a wall I had walked into without seeing it. Arthur had made his choice. Now I had to decide what mine would be. Lily showed up at my office at exactly 9 the next morning. She knocked once, then stepped in without waiting for an answer. She carried a notebook, a tablet, and a smile that looked permanently attached to her face. Amy, Uncle Arthur said you'd start walking me through the accounts today. I nodded and gestured to the chair across from my desk. Sit. She sat quickly, flipping open her notebook. I'm really grateful you're doing this. I know transitions can be awkward. Awkward wasn't the word. I pulled up the client dashboard on my screen. We'll start with Morrison Industries. They're our largest client. Her pen paused. Oh, I thought we'd ease into things. This is easing into things, I said. They make up almost a third of our annual revenue. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. Wow, I didn't realize it was that high. That's because no one told you, I said. I'm telling you now. For the next hour, I explained contracts, delivery schedules, escalation points. She wrote fast, asking questions that showed enthusiasm but not understanding. So if Daniel Morrison gets upset, I just reassure him, she asked. You listen first, I said. Then you tell him exactly what we can fix and when. Never promise what logistics can't deliver. And if he threatens to leave? I looked at her. Then you treat it like a crisis, not a negotiation exercise. She nodded, but her eyes had that glazed look people get when they're memorizing instead of learning. By mid-morning, my patience was thin. Every answer led to another basic question. Things I had learned by making mistakes, staying late, cleaning up disasters no one else saw. At lunch, I went to the break room to heat soup. I hadn't taken 2 steps before I heard voices through the thin wall. Arthur's office. The transition is going smoothly, Arthur said. She's very capable. Lily laughed softly. Amy knows everything. I don't know how she does it. That's exactly the issue, Arthur replied. Clients rely on her too much. I stopped moving. We need them to adapt, he continued. New leadership, new direction. But she built those relationships, Lily said. Some clients asked for her directly. Arthur chuckled. Amy's predictable, reliable, but predictable. My grip tightened on the soup container. She'll adjust, he went on. She always does. At her age, stability matters more than ambition. At her age? She doesn't have many options, Arthur said. That's why she's valuable. The microwave beeped. I took my soup and walked back to my office, my hand steady, my face calm. Something inside me had gone cold. That afternoon, I trained Lily with the same professionalism as before, but now I paid attention to what she didn't know, to what she couldn't answer, to how much of the department existed only because I held it together. When 5 o'clock came, I shut down my computer and sat still. Arthur thought I was predictable. He was wrong. That night I didn't sleep. Arthur's voice replayed in my head, calm and certain. Predictable, reliable, no options. The way he said it, like a settled fact, like a conclusion he had reached long ago. The next few days followed a pattern. Lily arrived early, left late, and asked questions nonstop. I answered all of them. I showed her how reports actually flowed through the company, not how they looked on slides. I explained which clients demanded daily updates and which ones hated phone calls. I told her which managers cut corners and which ones quietly fixed everyone else's mistakes. She thanked me constantly. I don't know what I'd do without you, she said more than once. Neither did Arthur, he just didn't know it yet. By Thursday, people had started dropping by my office again, not for congratulations, for reassurance. Are you really okay with this? Tom asked, leaning against my doorframe. I'm fine, I said. He didn't look convinced. Margaret stopped me in the hallway. If you need anything, she said carefully, anything at all. I know, I replied. By Friday afternoon, Arthur called me into his office again. I just wanted to check in, he said. Lily says you've been extremely helpful. I'm doing my job. He smiled. That's what I appreciate about you. I sat down across from him. Is there anything specific you need documented before the transition is complete? He waved a hand. No rush, we trust you. Trust. I nodded and stood to leave. As I reached the door, he added, You know, this could still work out well for you. I turned back. How? Stability, he said. Security, you won't have to prove yourself anymore. I looked at him for a moment. I've been proving myself for 3 years. He didn't respond. That evening, after Joseph went to bed, I opened my laptop at the kitchen table. I didn't update my resume. I didn't search job listings. I opened a blank document. I started listing everything I handled, every client contact, every emergency I had fixed, every process no one else fully understood. I wrote calmly, clearly, without emotion. Not for Arthur. For myself. By the time I closed the laptop, the house was silent. My tea had gone cold. My hands were steady. For the first time since the announcement, I wasn't reacting. I was preparing. By Monday morning, the office felt different. People spoke more carefully around me, like they weren't sure which version of me they were dealing with. The hurt one, the loyal one, or the one they hadn't met yet. Lily followed me into meetings now. She sat beside me, smiling, nodding, repeating my points in slightly different words. No one corrected her. No one questioned her title. I noticed everything. During a logistics review, a supplier raised a concern about delayed shipments. Lily turned to me instinctively. "What do you think?" she asked. I answered calmly, clearly. The meeting moved on, the decision stuck. Arthur watched the exchange without saying a word. Later that day, he stopped by my office. "You handled that well." "I always do." He smiled thinly. "That's why this arrangement works." That evening, I stayed late, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I opened old files, reviewed contracts, and quietly copied my documentation to a private drive. Nothing confidential. Just proof of systems, decisions, structures I had designed and maintained. Joseph came home to find me still at the table. "You're working again?" he asked. "I'm finishing something." He didn't push. Tuesday brought the first small crack. Lily missed a call from Morrison Industries. By the time she returned it, Daniel Morrison was already irritated. He asked for me directly. I took the call. "I thought you'd left," he said. "I'm still here," I replied. "Well," he said, "that explains a lot." After I hung up, Lily looked flustered. I didn't see the notification. I nodded. "It happens." But Arthur had noticed. By Wednesday, 2 managers came to me quietly with questions they didn't feel comfortable asking Lily yet. I answered them. Efficient, professional. By Thursday, Arthur was tense. "You're becoming a bottleneck," he said during a quick hallway conversation. "I'm just doing what you asked," I replied, "supporting the transition." He didn't like that answer. That night I printed a single page at home, 1 page, simple, formal, final. I placed it in a white envelope and set it on the kitchen counter. Joseph picked it up, read the first line, and looked at me. "Are you sure?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Then don't second-guess yourself." I didn't. The next morning, I wore my navy suit, the one Arthur used to compliment. I walked into the office early and placed the envelope neatly on my desk. At 10 sharp, I walked to Arthur's office. He looked up, irritated. "What is it, Amy? I'm in meetings all day." I set the envelope in front of him. "Open it." Arthur opened the envelope slowly, like he already sensed what was coming. He unfolded the page and read in silence. I watched his face change in stages, first confusion, then disbelief, then something close to panic. "You can't be serious," he said, standing up so fast his chair rolled back. "This is a reaction. We can talk about this." "I am serious." "You're resigning," his voice rose, "after everything we just discussed." "Yes." He scanned the letter again, like different words might appear the second time. 2 weeks' notice, he read out loud. "This is absurd." "It's standard." "You're emotional," he said. "This is about the promotion. This is about respect." He walked around his desk, lowering his voice. "Lily needs you. The department needs you. They'll manage." Arthur stopped pacing. "You're walking away from stability." I met his eyes. "I'm walking away from being underestimated." He shook his head. "Where will you go?" I didn't answer. "This isn't smart," he continued. "You're 42. Companies want younger leaders." I said nothing. "You're throwing away security over pride." I stood up. "I'm choosing dignity." He exhaled sharply. "What do you want?" "I want my last day to be handled professionally." Arthur stared at me, realizing negotiation wasn't working. "Fine," he said coldly, "but don't expect us to fall apart without you." "I don't expect anything," I replied. When I walked out, Marie looked up from her desk. She had heard the raised voices. Everything okay? She asked softly. Yes, I said, and for the first time, it wasn't a lie. Back in my office, the phone started ringing almost immediately. Word traveled fast. Tom appeared first. Is it true? Yes. Margaret came next. I don't blame you. Lily hovered in the doorway, pale. Did I do something wrong? No, I said honestly. This isn't about you. She nodded, unsure. That afternoon, Arthur avoided me completely. I worked calmly, documenting everything. I forwarded files. I labeled processes. I prepared handover notes that were clear but limited, enough to function, not enough to replace 3 years of experience. At 5, I shut down my computer and sat still. The letter had done its job. Now the consequences would begin. The office changed the moment my resignation became real. People whispered more openly now. Meetings felt strained. Decisions stalled. Lily hesitated before speaking, glancing at me as if checking invisible notes. Arthur called an emergency leadership meeting 2 days later. I want everyone aligned, he said. This transition must be smooth. Smooth was not the word. During the meeting, a logistics issue came up involving a delayed shipment. Lily started explaining a solution, then stopped mid-sentence. Amy, she asked, what would you suggest? All eyes turned to me. I answered once, briefly, no extra context, no safety net. The silence afterward felt different. After the meeting, Arthur pulled me aside. You're holding back. I'm fulfilling my role. He lowered his voice. Don't sabotage us. I looked at him. I'm not responsible for outcomes after my last day. That afternoon, Daniel Morrison called again. I hear you're leaving, he said. Yes. Then we should talk. We scheduled a call for the following week. Arthur didn't know yet. At home, Joseph watched me pack work files into a box. You okay? Yes. He hesitated. Dad called me. I paused. What did he say? That you're being impulsive. I closed the box. He said the same about me taking this job 3 years ago. Joseph nodded slowly. He's scared. He should be. The next morning, Arthur finally tried a different approach. He invited me to lunch. I made a mistake, he said carefully, stirring his coffee. I should have handled the announcement better. You should have been honest, I replied. He sighed. What if we revisited your role? Different title, more responsibility. Too late. He leaned forward. Amy, don't do this. I stood up. My decision is final. By the end of the week, small failures started surfacing. Missed follow-ups, confused teams, clients asking for clarifications that didn't come. I didn't interfere. Friday afternoon, Lily knocked on my door. I'm overwhelmed. I looked at her. That happens. She swallowed. Uncle Arthur said you'd help. I am helping, I said, by letting you lead. Her face fell. That night, I updated my resume for the first time in years. The next call would change everything. My last week at Alden Ventures felt longer than the 3 years before it. Arthur stopped including me in meetings, then quietly added me back when things stalled. Lily tried to take control, then deferred when people pushed back. Everyone was careful, polite, uncertain. On Tuesday morning, Daniel Morrison called. I wanted to speak before rumors get too loud, he said. I understand. We've noticed a drop in responsiveness, he continued. Things that used to be handled in hours now take days. I didn't defend anyone. Transitions are hard. That's what Arthur said, Daniel replied. But I want to be clear. This isn't about transition, it's about leadership. I said nothing. He paused. Where are you going next? I haven't announced anything yet. Good, he said, because I'd like to recommend you. The word settled slowly. Recommend me to who? I asked. Horizon Tech, he said. They asked if I knew someone who could stabilize operations. I told them about you. My grip tightened on the phone. I appreciate that. You earned it, he said. Let me know if you want an introduction. After the call, I sat at my desk for a long moment, letting the noise of the office fade into the background. That afternoon, Arthur called me in again. I hear Morrison reached out, he said. Yes. What did he say? He asked questions. Arthur leaned forward. Did you encourage him? No. He studied my face, searching for something. You're still representing us until your last day. I know. The tension between us was open now. By Thursday, Lily stopped asking for help, not because she didn't need it, but because she didn't want to admit it anymore. Mistakes piled up quietly. Small ones, then bigger ones. Margaret stopped by my office at lunch. There are rumors, she said. Layoffs. I'm sorry. I don't blame you, she added quickly. I just wish things had been handled differently. So do I. On my final day, I cleared out my office early. I took the certificates off the wall and placed them in a box. They felt lighter than they used to. Arthur avoided me until the end. When he finally appeared in my doorway, his voice was stiff. Good luck, Amy. Thank you. He hesitated. This didn't have to happen. It did, I said. I walked out without looking back. By the time I reached the parking lot, my phone buzzed. Daniel Morrison, I've sent your name. Expect a call. I got in my car, closed the door, and sat there breathing slowly. For the first time since that announcement, the future wasn't a threat. It was open. The call came 2 days later. I was at home, reorganizing the spare room into something that felt less like a guest space and more like a future office. My phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it. Almost. Amy Hayes, a woman asked. Yes. This is Rebecca Chin from Horizon Tech. Daniel Morrison suggested I reach out. I sat down slowly. I'm listening. We're looking for someone to lead regional operations, she said. Your name came up more than once. More than once. She explained the role, 3 departments, major client oversight, authority to restructure processes instead of patching problems. The words were direct, no sugarcoating, no vague promises. I should be upfront, she added. We move quickly. So do I replied. The interview was scheduled for the next morning. At Horizon Tech's office, no one asked about my age. No one asked how I felt about working under pressure. They asked about outcomes, failures, decisions I had made when things went wrong. What would you change if you had full authority? The CEO asked. I didn't hesitate. I'd remove dependency on single points of control and build systems that survive leadership changes. He smiled. Good answer. 2 days later, Rebecca called again. We'd like to make you an offer. The salary was higher than anything Arthur had ever discussed. The title matched the work I had already been doing for years. The benefits were clear, written, and specific. I accepted. My first day felt quiet. No ceremony, no applause, just a desk, a team, and a stack of real problems. By noon, I had already identified gaps that explained Horizon Tech's recent client losses. By the end of the day, I had proposed changes no one argued with. This is why we hired you, Rebecca said. That evening, Daniel Morrison called again. I heard, he said. Congratulations. Thank you. We're moving our account, he continued, effective next quarter. I closed my eyes briefly. That's a big decision. It's a necessary one, he said. We need consistency. When I hung up, I didn't feel victory. I felt confirmation. Back at Alden Ventures, the impact wouldn't be immediate. It never was. But the shift had begun, quietly, the same way the promotion had been announced. Only this time, I wasn't the one being overlooked. The first week at Horizon Tech moved fast. No one hovered. No one second-guessed my decisions. When I asked for data, it arrived complete. When I questioned a process, people explained it instead of defending it. By Thursday, I was leading a strategy meeting with 3 department heads. The issue isn't workload, I said, pointing to the numbers. It's communication gaps. Your teams don't know who owns what when something breaks. No one argued. We'll fix that, Marcus said. Draft the structure. At Alden Ventures, that sentence would have started a 6-month discussion. Here, it ended one. On Friday morning, Daniel Morrison's team joined a transition call. They were polite but direct. We need stability, Daniel said. The last few weeks were chaotic. I understand, I replied. Here's what changes immediately. I outlined timelines, escalation paths, and accountability. No drama, no reassurance speeches. By the end of the call, Daniel exhaled. This feels familiar. It should, I said. After the call, Sarah, one of my direct reports, leaned back in her chair. You don't over-explain. I don't need to, I replied. The second week brought news I hadn't expected so soon. Rebecca walked into my office holding a report. 3 former Alden Ventures clients contacted us. I looked up. All of them mentioned service delays. And you. I nodded once. We're not poaching, she said. They reached out. Then we respond professionally. She smiled. That's what I hoped you'd say. That evening, my phone rang. It was Margaret. They're cutting hours, she said quietly. Arthur says it's temporary. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry. I don't regret staying, she added, but I wish I'd seen the signs earlier. After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. Horizon Tech was growing. Alden Ventures was shrinking. The contrast was sharp, but I didn't feel satisfaction, just distance. At the end of the month, Marcus called me into his office. We're expanding the role, he said. More authority, more visibility. I nodded. That makes sense. He studied me. Your former employer underestimated you. They did, I said. He leaned back. We won't. Outside, the city lights reflected off the glass walls. Inside, everything was moving forward. And somewhere else, the consequences were finally catching up. The first real test came without warning. On a Tuesday morning, Sarah knocked on my door and closed it behind her. The Anderson group just escalated. I looked up. What happened? They missed 2 shipments last week. They're threatening to walk. I stood up. Schedule the call. The meeting lasted 3 hours. The Anderson team didn't raise their voices. They didn't need to. They laid out missed deadlines, vague responses, and a growing lack of trust. I listened without interrupting, took notes, and didn't defend Horizon Tech once. When they finished, I spoke. This is what we failed to do, I said, and this is how it changes today. I gave them timelines, names, direct contact points. I explained what would be fixed immediately and what would take time. I didn't promise perfection, I promised clarity. There was a pause. That's the first straight answer we've gotten in months, one of them said. By the end of the call, they agreed to stay, not just stay, expand. Sarah exhaled when the screen went dark. How did you do that? I didn't sell, I said. I listened. Word spread fast. Within days, other departments asked for my input, not because they were told to, but because they saw results. Meetings became shorter. Decisions became cleaner. Marcus invited me to present at the executive review. This system you built, he said afterward, tapping the table. Why didn't your last company do this? They didn't want to change, I replied. He smiled. Their loss. That afternoon, Rebecca forwarded me an email. Another former Alden Ventures client requesting a conversation. Then another. At home, Joseph noticed the shift. You're different, he said one evening. Not stressed, not waiting for approval. I don't need it here, I replied. He nodded. Dad's company is struggling. I know. He hesitated. He asked about you. I didn't respond. That night, I sat in my home office, reviewing growth projections. Horizon Tech was scaling faster than expected. New roles were opening. Teams were forming around systems I had built. For the first time in years, my work wasn't about survival. It was about momentum. The news reached me in pieces. Not through headlines or announcements, but through quiet conversations and careful phone calls. Former colleagues testing the ground. Clients asking indirect questions. Margaret called first. They lost Morrison, she said, officially. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry. They didn't even fight for it, she continued. Arthur said it was part of a strategic realignment. Strategic realignment, the phrase sounded familiar. By the end of that week, 2 more accounts were gone. Smaller ones, but steady. The kind that kept departments stable. People stopped pretending nothing was wrong. At Horizon Tech, the contrast was sharp. We onboarded 2 new clients without chaos. No emergency meetings, no late-night damage control. Systems held, teams knew who to call. Rebecca stopped by my office. We're accelerating hiring. For which departments? All of them, she said. Growth is pulling ahead of projections. I nodded. Then we need training before expansion. She smiled. Already scheduled. That evening, Joseph came home tense. Dad's laid off 6 people, he said. Accounting and logistics. I didn't answer right away. He didn't say your name, Joseph added quietly, but he asked if you talked to him. I shook my head. There's nothing to say. The calls kept coming. A supplier asked if I was aware Alden Ventures had missed 2 payments. A former manager asked if Horizon Tech was hiring. A client asked, carefully, if my move had been planned. No, I told them, it was necessary. One afternoon, Lily's name appeared on my phone. I let it ring. She texted instead. I didn't realize how much you handled. I stared at the message for a long time, then locked my phone. At Horizon Tech, we closed the quarter ahead of schedule. Marcus congratulated the team without singling anyone out. No speeches, no trophies, just results. Later that night, alone in my office, I reviewed the numbers one last time. The difference wasn't talent. It was respect. Alden Ventures hadn't collapsed overnight. It was unraveling slowly, the way strong things do when the wrong people hold them together. And for the first time, I wasn't part of the cleanup. Margaret called again late on a Sunday evening. I didn't know who else to talk to, she said. Her voice sounded thinner than before. They're offering early retirement packages now. For who? For people like me, she said. Long tenure, higher salaries. I leaned back in my chair. What are you going to do? She laughed quietly. I don't know, I'm 58. I thought I'd finish my career there. I didn't respond immediately. At Horizon Tech, we had just approved 3 new finance roles. I had reviewed the projections myself. The work would be heavy, the expectations clear. Would you want me to connect you with someone? I asked. She went silent. Are you serious? Yes. Her breath caught. Amy, I don't want charity. This isn't charity, I said. It's competence. By Tuesday, Rebecca had reviewed Margaret's background. She's solid, she said. If she's interested, we are. When I told Margaret, she cried. At Alden Ventures, things deteriorated faster after that. A team lead resigned without notice. A supplier demanded revised terms. Arthur sent out a company-wide email about resilience and vision. People started forwarding it to each other with no comments. Joseph came home one night looking exhausted. He's not sleeping, he said. He keeps saying he miscalculated. I didn't ask about me. The invitation arrived a week later. Heavy paper, formal script. Alden Ventures' annual awards dinner. Joseph read it over my shoulder. You don't have to go. I know. You don't owe him anything. I know. I folded the card carefully, but I want to. The ballroom was the same one they'd used every year. Chandeliers, white linens, familiar faces. Everything looked unchanged. Except me. Rebecca came with me, not as support, as a reminder. During the cocktail hour, former colleagues approached carefully. Some hugged me, some avoided me, some just stared. Then the lights dimmed. Arthur stepped onto the stage. He looked older. Arthur cleared his throat before speaking. The room quieted the way it always did when he took the stage. Habit, respect built over years, some of it still remained. This year has tested us, he began. We've faced challenges that forced us to rethink leadership, structure, and how we recognize talent. I watched him from my seat. He didn't look at me yet. He talked about resilience, about adapting to change, about learning from mistakes without naming them. The words sounded rehearsed, polished, safe. Awards were handed out. Sales, innovation, teamwork. Applause followed each name, steady but restrained. Then Arthur paused. Our final recognition tonight is new, he said. It honors leadership that continues to influence this company, even beyond its walls. My stomach tightened. Amy Hayes, he said. The room reacted before I did. Chairs shifted. Heads turned. A wave of sound rose, uncertain at first, then louder. Rebecca touched my arm. Go. I stood and walked toward the stage. Every step felt deliberate, Controlled. Arthur met me halfway, handing me a crystal award. His hand trembled slightly. Your work laid foundations we still rely on, he said into the microphone. We acknowledge that tonight. I took the microphone. The room went still. Thank you, I said. My voice was steady. I appreciate the recognition. I paused, letting the silence work. When I joined this company, I believed loyalty and effort would always be met with honesty. I believed leadership meant accountability. What I learned instead was how important it is to know when your contribution is valued and when it is simply convenient. A few people shifted uncomfortably. I'm grateful for my time here because it showed me exactly what I needed to look for next. I handed the microphone back. The applause was scattered at first, then stronger. Not everyone joined in. I returned to my seat. Arthur didn't look at me again. After the dinner, he approached quietly as people gathered their coats. Can we talk? He asked. I nodded once. Rebecca stepped away. I made mistakes, Arthur said. His voice was low now. If there were a way to fix them. There isn't, I replied. We're restructuring. There could be room. No. He swallowed. You've done well. So have you, I said, for a long time. He didn't answer. I walked out holding the award. It felt heavier than I expected. Outside, the air was cool, quiet. Rebecca smiled. That was controlled. That was finished, I said. Arthur called the next morning. I let it ring. He called again that afternoon, then once more the following day. On the fourth call, I answered. We need to talk, he said. We already did. This is different, he replied. The board is involved now. I listened. They're asking questions, he continued, about why you left, about what we lost. That's not my concern. Amy, he said carefully, we can make this right. I closed my office door at Horizon Tech before responding. You had that chance. There was a pause. We're prepared to offer you your position back, expanded authority, compensation to match the market. Why now? Because the company is bleeding. There it was. I'm not interested, I said. You don't even want to hear the details. I already know them. He exhaled slowly. You're holding a grudge. I'm holding a boundary. You were family. So was I replied, until it was inconvenient. Silence. We underestimated you, he said finally. Yes, I agreed. When I hung up, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just distance. That afternoon, Marcus stopped by my office. We're opening a new regional hub, he said. I want you overseeing the launch. When? Immediately. I nodded. Then we'll need staffing plans. He smiled, already working on them. At home, Joseph watched me pack a small overnight bag. Dad's furious, he said, but he knows it's over. I hope so. He asked if you'd forgive him. I zipped the bag. This isn't about forgiveness. That night, I placed the Crystal Award on a shelf beside a framed photo from my first day at Horizon Tech. 2 chapters, one closed, one expanding. Arthur's calls stopped after that. The company didn't collapse. It just wasn't the same anymore. The new regional hub opened faster than expected. Temporary offices, long days, clear deadlines, no confusion about who decided what. People worked hard not because they were afraid, but because they understood the plan. By the second week, the numbers stabilized. By the third, they improved. Marcus called it a clean launch. Rebecca called it overdue. I called it functional. One afternoon, an unfamiliar name appeared on my calendar. Lily Monroe. I didn't cancel it. She joined the video call looking tired. Not nervous, just worn. I won't take much of your time, she said. I wanted to say something directly. I waited. I wasn't ready, she said, and I thought I was. I didn't respond. When you left, she continued, everything you handled became visible, not immediately, but steadily. I nodded once. I know this doesn't fix anything, she said, but I wanted you to hear it from me. I hear you, I replied. She hesitated. I'm leaving Alden Ventures. That surprised me. Arthur doesn't know yet, she added. Neither does the board. Where will you go? I don't know, she admitted, but not there. We ended the call without drama. Later that evening, Margaret sent me a message. Her onboarding paperwork was complete. She started the following Monday. At Alden Ventures, the reshuffle began quietly. Departments merged, titles changed, people updated profiles online. Joseph came home one night shaking his head. They're selling off assets, he said. Not everything, just enough to stay afloat. I poured tea and listened. They're calling it a strategic pivot. Of course they are. At Horizon Tech, the board approved the next expansion phase. My team doubled. Systems scaled. Mistakes happened, but they were owned and fixed. One morning, I found an envelope on my desk. No return address. Inside was a short note, handwritten. You were right, I should have listened sooner. No signature. I folded the paper and placed it in a drawer. Outside my office, people were already waiting. Questions, decisions, work that mattered. The past had finished asking for attention. The industry noticed before I did. It started with invitations, panels, closed-door meetings, quiet requests for advice that weren't framed as favors, just business. At one conference, a former Alden Ventures client stopped me near the exit. We should have followed you sooner, he said. I didn't reply. Back at Horizon Tech, the pace didn't slow. New hires needed direction. Systems needed refinement. Growth always created pressure, and pressure revealed weaknesses fast. One afternoon, Marcus joined me in a review session. You don't overcorrect, he said. Most leaders do. I correct what matters. That's rare. Later that week, the board approved another initiative under my oversight. No ceremony, no announcement, just trust. Joseph mentioned Arthur less now. When he did, it was factual. Sales down, legal restructuring, new advisors. He's tired, Joseph said once. Not angry, just quieter. I nodded. Then the email arrived. Alden Ventures will be hosting a private leadership forum. Your presence is requested. I read it once and closed it. I didn't attend. That evening, I walked through the house, noticing how settled everything felt. No late-night anxiety, no rehearsed conversations, just space. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. This is Arthur, he said. His voice sounded smaller. I won't call again after this. I waited. I didn't lose the company because you left, he said. I lost it because I refused to change. I didn't respond. I thought control was leadership, he continued. I was wrong. Yes, I said. Another pause. I hope you don't carry this with you. I don't, I replied. When the call ended, I didn't sit down. I didn't need to. The next morning, Horizon Tech finalized a partnership that would lock in growth for years. Contracts signed, teams aligned. No chaos. I watched it happen without adrenaline. This wasn't about winning anymore. It was about permanence. The offer came quietly. Not through Arthur, not through lawyers, through a mutual contact who thought timing mattered more than pride. They want you back, he said. Not publicly, advisory, short-term. I didn't answer right away. The board believes your presence would stabilize things, he added. They're willing to give you control over operations. Control. I closed my laptop and stood by the window for a moment. Outside, the city moved the way it always did. Indifferent. No, I said. You don't want to hear the terms. I already understand the problem, I replied. They want the result without the accountability. The line went quiet. At Horizon Tech, we finalized year-end planning. Numbers were solid, teams were aligned. The company felt predictable in the best way. Marcus stopped me after a meeting. You've changed how we operate, he said, not just structurally, culturally. That lasts longer, I replied. That evening, Joseph sat beside me on the couch, scrolling through news on his phone. They officially announced Arthur's step back, he said, consulting role only. I nodded. He didn't fight it. He couldn't. Joseph looked at me. Do you feel anything? I thought for a moment. Relief. Not triumph, not satisfaction, just relief. A few days later, Lily sent a final message. I found something new. It's smaller, I'll have to learn properly. I read it and didn't reply. At my desk, I reviewed a proposal for long-term expansion. My name sat at the top of the document. No qualifiers, no footnotes. That night, I removed the crystal award from the shelf and placed it in a box. Not to hide it, to store it. It had served its purpose. Some victories don't need reminders. The last shift happened quietly. No announcement, no email, just time doing what it always does. At Horizon Tech, the expansion plan moved from proposal to execution. New teams formed. Systems held. People stopped asking who approved decisions because they already knew. One morning, Marcus forwarded me a message from the board. Long-term appointment confirmed. No congratulations attached, no commentary. I replied with a single word, received. Joseph stopped mentioning Alden Ventures altogether after that. Whatever remained there no longer reached our dinner table. Arthur didn't call again. No notes, no apologies, just absence. One afternoon, while reorganizing my office, I came across the old documentation I had written during my last weeks there. Process maps, client histories, notes I had once thought were my safety net. I deleted the folder. It wasn't needed anymore. Margaret settled into her role quickly. She didn't thank me again. She didn't need to. She worked, delivered, and left on time. That was enough. At a quarterly review, someone asked how I handled transitions so cleanly. I finished things properly, I said. They nodded and moved on. That evening, I drove home without traffic. The house was quiet when I arrived. Joseph was still at work. I poured a glass of water and stood in the kitchen, listening to nothing in particular. No tension, no anticipation. Later, I opened the box in the closet and looked at the crystal award one last time. It caught the light briefly, then went dull again. I closed the box. Not because it hurt. Because it no longer mattered. The story had already moved forward without it. You have reached the end of the text.